Time now to build up for the Ashes. Let me tell you, nothing quite gets the juices flowing like the England trying to win down under. Of course, it's not happened since 2010, 2011. That's their only win down under since the 1980s. So how prepared are England to face down the Aussies and their media? I'm interested to get Henry's take on some of the headlines coming out from there. But delighted to say we are now joined by the senior correspondent at the Cricketer. How are you getting on, and how excited are you for this down under? It must be sort of the tension building down under there.
Yeah, look, I feel very lucky to be here, and unlike a couple of the previous tours, a couple of the previous Ashes tours, I think England have a really good chance of winning. This feels like a unique opportunity, really, to win in Australia, which is desperately difficult to do, and win in Perth in particular, which I've never seen England do.
George, you've been in Lilac Hill, or at Lilac Hill. Yeah. Can you explain to me why? I assume Cricket Australia chose it because it's not necessarily, as a wicket, the most conducive to the type of wickets that England are going to be facing in the Ashes. Why doesn't the ECB do something about that and say, actually, we want a faster wicket to prepare us for the Ashes?
I think that's a really good question. To be fair, you are always, whichever country you tour, in the hands of the local organisers up to a point. And England aren't great with tourists either. So let's not pretend that this is any particular sort of gamesmanship. The point you make is that the wicket at Lilac Hill was low and really slow. And Perth is famous for having very quick, bouncy wickets. So has it been good preparation for what's ahead? I don't know. I fear that England could still be caught a little bit cold when and not just in Perth, but in Brisbane as well. So what they did to try and mitigate for that was they bought their own opposition. So in previous tours, they have played kids from Australia on very slow wickets, and it's been no help at all. So they tried to bring their own fast bowlers, but you're still reliant on the locals to produce fast wickets. And, this was a park rather than a professional wicket. So it was decent in many ways. It was lovely. It was a very charming place. But is it perfect preparation? I don't think it is. And is there a possibility that in future years you could have a situation where England are actually sending their own ground staff over months ahead, weeks ahead, hiring a venue, be it a school, be it a university, whatever? I think they might need to look at that. But, they seem to think they've had okay preparation, and I guess we'll see.
George, talking of preparation, just looking at your piece in the cricket, you're saying basically you can't remember a time when actually England were going into a series like this with so few injuries. So does that mean Mark Wood is okay to start the first test?
No, I don't think he is, but I didn't ever think he was. Steve Harmison has been saying for months, treat Mark Wood as if he's a bonus. And I think he's still a viable option for maybe the second or third tests. He was never going to play all five. He's the fastest bowler potentially England have ever had, and he's in his mid-30s. He hasn't played a first-class game since August 2024. He was always a bit of a high-risk option, but that's okay. They don't necessarily need him. They do have quite a lot of fast bowlers. He's just the quickest, but he's not ruled out of the tour or anything. He's okay. He's just rehabbing, and I think he's just a few days behind where they would want him to be for the first test.
George, I agree with you on Mark Wood there, because just seeing him, walking out in training, he had as much strapping on, it made it look like he was wearing a cast anyway. So rightly, I think Harmy's bang on, treat him as a bonus. But in terms of,
do you know what though? He's still bowled at 91 miles an hour in the warm up. He has got a really special talent. But they've got other guys. Bryden Carse is sharp. Obviously, Jofra Archer is really sharp. Ben Stokes is sharp when he needs to be. There's a lot to like about this attack. So it's not the end of the world. And by comparison, Australia have lost Josh Hazlewood and Pat Cummins, who are their two best bowlers. They are, they're class operators. And they don't have the depth that they used to have, which is why it's an opportunity.
George, a lot has been levelled at Ben Stokes, whether it's questions about Joe Root's record in Australia, whether it's questions about how they're responding to the media pressure out there, whether it's questions about fitness, his own fitness, etc. It seems I'm so impressed by Ben Stokes constantly. He's such a statesman about how calm he is. What do you think? Do you think that there's a genuine confidence, particularly as you've mentioned with the injuries to Hazlewood and Cummins, that that England can get a result in this first test against Perth on Friday, at Perth on Friday?
Well, I don't think he's particularly worried about what a couple of, let's be honest, buffoons in the Australian media are saying.
Well said.
Because it's nonsense. And you know what? The reason I think it's a bit sad is because I don't think the series needs it. It's a brilliant, brilliant series. Potentially 30,000 Brits coming to Australia to watch, yeah?
Sorry, 30,000?
Apparently. Over the course of the series, right? Yeah, and bear in mind how far it is, how much it costs. Every session of every test, I suspect, will be capacity. Yeah. And some of these grounds are 90, 100,000 seaters. It doesn't need this, I want to say a ruder word that I'm going to say, nonsense to build it up.
Josh, can I take you back to the Australian attack? Josh Hazlewood, you say, is out. Pat Cummins is out. Obviously, they've still got Mitchell Starc. Can you tell us about Scott Boland and Brendan Doggett and what a drop-off that is, if at all? I assume it is a drop-off from the two that they've lost for the first two tests at least.
Yeah, to put in perspective, Josh Hazlewood is fast bowling perfection. He is a highly skilled workhorse in that he can bowl all day. He would hit a length. He's huge. And he would just hit a length, nibble the ball around, absolute top class. And Pat Cummins is basically the same thing. He might be even more skillful. So they are two absolute champion fast bowlers. And in a way, I'm sorry not to see them play because they're good. They're good men. They're fantastic athletes. And you kind of want to see the best be the best. But from a selfish England perspective, this is a lottery win because however good the others are, and they're very fine cricketers, they're not as good. Now, Scott Boland initially came into Test cricket and did brilliantly against England. I believe they've learned how to play him. I think they will go after him and I think they'll try and hit him out of the attack. They did it very, very well in England. It will be a challenge to see if they can do it in Australia. And if it's Doggett who plays, again, he's a good cricketer, but he is significantly below the level of Hazlewood and Cummins. That's why it's a big opportunity. Having said all that, I think Australia are still favourites, yeah? I think England have played 14 tests in Perth in history. They've won one. So the conditions are very, very different to what they're used to. And, it's a real stronghold of Australian cricket. But if it was ever going to, even in 2010, I was lucky enough to be here in 2010, when England won 3 tests by an innings, which no side's ever done before, they still lost very heavily in Perth, to put it in perspective. So it's a real challenge, these first 2 tests. My own view is if England win either of the first 2, they're in business.